If you love chilling mysteries, unsolved cases, and a touch of mom-style humor, Moms and Mysteries is the podcast you've been searching for. Hey guys, I'm Mandy.
And I'm Melissa. Join us every Tuesday for Moms and Mysteries, your gateway to gripping, well-researched true crime stories. Each week, we deep dive into a variety of mind-boggling cases as we shed light on everything from heists to whodunits. We're your go-to podcast for mysteries with a motherly touch. Subscribe now to Moms and Mysteries wherever you get your podcasts.
And so I said, you don't need to slice it. I just want the ham. Just give me the ham.
And what did she say?
Oh, you know, I have to get the manager and blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah. Exactly. We got to stop going there.
Yeah, but that's giving them what they want, Heath.
Yeah.
What I want is the ham.
Ha-ha! Dude, come on. Really?
All over my shirt? Wow. I got to say, usually we die at like the end of the intro skit rather than the beginning because Eli doesn't know how to write buttons.
Okay, first of all, dying is a button, Cecil.
Okay.
Lots of great comics
It's
use
like
it.
the example of lazy writing.
Right?
Second,
Agreed.
I killed Tom because it fits the theme of this week's episode. It's about body snatching and murder. It's all totally on topic.
Well, sure, Eli, Burke and Hare weren't the good guys in the story, though. They were murderers. They're the bad guys.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, man. They're the bad guys.
Yeah, it's easy.
Oh.
Besides, dude, we already kill Cecil with this show every week, just little by little and on the inside.
Yeah,
so this is excessive.
You know what? That's fair. Let's go do the show. Let's do the show.
That's
Finally,
the spirit.
thank you.
I really am tired. Very tired.
Sorry, what'd you say, buddy?
Nothing. I said, let's go. Let's do the podcast.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Eli Bosnick, and I'll be dissecting this evening's story, but I'll need some dead weight. First up, 3 men whose many friends and loved ones would desperately search for them everywhere if they were to go missing, even for just a few hours. Tom, Cecil, and Noah.
I just want to point out that it's fiends. It's many fiends and loved ones. So I wrote a joke for fiends. I wrote a joke for fiends, not friends. So I have a selection of fiends, a fiend folio, if you will, Eli.
Welcome to our world, Cecil.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so to be fair, like they would only be looking at me for Netflix passwords and shit.
And also joining us tonight, Heath is here.
Great. Yeah, fun.
Oh.
Missed this for a month. This is awesome.
Brutal.
This is great.
Patrons,
Love that.
in so many ways, you are Heath's family and
Oh, good.
friends
We're doing
now.
more of the bit. Well, let's really dig in on it.
In
That's
that
awesome.
you care
Me.
whether or not he lives or dies by donating as little as $1 a
Yep,
podcast.
my life is very bleak. This is fun.
And if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Tom, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Today we will be talking about the Burke and Hare murders.
And Noah, you dissected this
Already used
story
that one.
thoroughly. I ran out.
Yeah, real quick, super quick.
I got another one. Are you ready to spill
Don't
your
say
guts?
okay.
You know what? That's the least abusive thing I've done to my guts in a long fucking time. Yes, I am ready.
All right. So, what were the Burke and Hare murders?
They were the byproducts of anatomists offering to pay cash money for corpses, and a couple guys deciding that digging them up was a whole big thing.
All right.
Yeah.
And this is a Noah essay. So, what Paleolithic era does our story begin in?
There's just one
Well, the first murder was
Paleolithic era, but okay. So murder began with Cain and Abel. No.
Question doesn't even make sense. Dumb.
Right.
Dumb setup, Eli.
Check the
So-
premise.
So we're going to start in a city that knows a little something about dead people, Edinburgh, Scotland. See, back in the early 1800s, anatomy was just coming into its own as a science, and one of the leading European centers for the study was in Scotland's capital. Up to that point, any effort to dissect a cadaver was seen as satanic, but in the light of the scientific revolution, some people were slowly starting to come around to the idea that seeing how we worked might have some value.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I hear you about Edinburgh. When we were there, we absolutely died on that stage.
Yep, sure did.
Sure did.
Yeah, but that's a death nobody wanted to dissect.
No, of course, just because the leading lights of science could see the benefits of human dissection doesn't mean they could convince the culture at large. A lot of people back then still believed in bodily resurrection. That's the Christian concept that after Christ's return, your actual dead body is going to rise up and live on. Now, somehow they'd reconciled the fact of decomposition with that belief, but they couldn't reconcile it with the idea that your heart and brain would be in different jars. So if the general population is still horrified by the concept, of course, that means that the politicians had to at least pretend to be horrified by it too. So for the longest time, the only bodies anybody was allowed to poke around in were the corpses of executed prisoners. In fact, that was actually kind of seen as an extra post-mortem punishment that the state could mete out to criminals.
Satan gets a rapture gift of all the criminals to torture forever, and he's like, oh man, some assembly required. This sucks.
You see, this is why I hate trying to torture the Swedes. Duck hamlocks and dowel rods.
I have an extra pinky. What is that? What am I supposed to do with an extra pinky?
I need an anal wrench.
This hex wrench is cursed.
Even as prodigious as the British were in terms of executions back then, it was nowhere near enough to keep up with the demand from surgical schools. So by 1828, the year our grisly tale takes place, the list of acceptable bodies for dissection had expanded to include executed criminals, people who died in prison other than executions, people who died by suicide, regardless of where, abandoned children.
What?
And orphans.
Okay, quick note. That's a weird list.
Right?
It's a weird list of things.
Also,
Yeah.
how are the abandoned
Not
children
orphans.
not orphans?
Yeah, I see that.
I can't imagine what list that go like things you shouldn't profit from.
Yeah. But of course, even that expansive list was not enough for cities like Edinburgh. It had become one of the most prestigious centers for anatomical study in the world, so every budding surgeon wanted to be able to say that they studied there. That meant that there was really strong demand for dead bodies, above and beyond what there would be in another city that size. And there were also a whole bunch of them just lying around in cemeteries. And there was also capitalism. So you ended up with a new profession called resurrection men, or as we would dub them today, grave robbers. So with a quick reminder not to take legal advice from a podcast, I should point out that the stealing of corpses was kind of a legally ambiguous thing back then. Right, so it was illegal to disturb a grave, and it was illegal to take possessions from a grave, but the corpse itself didn't belong to anyone.
You didn't disturb it?
Well, so, like,
You couldn't dibs it? Come on.
Well, that's exactly what they were trying to avoid. They didn't want a situation where you could sell like your mother-in-law's cadaver to researchers because you didn't want her hounding you in the post-apocalyptic paradise, right? So if you could snatch a body without having to dig it up and you left all the possessions behind, you hadn't actually committed a crime.
And you did it quietly and reasonably.
Yes, exactly. And possession of a corpse wasn't a crime either. What with the tendency of live people to suddenly become corpses and the infrequency of the bring out your dead wagon back then. So it was one of those illicit trades that was super easy to get away with.
Oh, hey, officer. Yeah, no, I brought these from home. These are mine from home. I brought them for a walk.
Now, of course, just because you could do it in a quasi-legal way didn't mean that people did. Instead, they just dug up coffins. Or actually, they would just dig down until some of the coffin was revealed, and then they would smash through it and yank the corpse out of the hole. Well, yeah, because, coffins don't bend. You don't have to pull the whole fucking thing out. And stealing that might have been illegal. So...
unboxing videos would have been interesting back in the day, though.
Right? Camera came too late. Of course, you couldn't just go digging up any old corpse. You might think a corpse is a corpse.
Of course.
But corpses decompose. And the more decomposed they are, the less useful they are to anatomists. So what the anatomists needed were fresh corpses. That's going to be important later, pin in that. Now, they also tended to be the easiest ones to exhume, too, because the dirt hadn't settled in as much. And I love this macabre little detail that I found on Wikipedia. Apparently, dead people were seasonal. like lobsters. They were worth 8 pounds in the summer when it was warmer, when they would decompose faster, but 10 pounds in the winter when anatomists could store them longer.
Okay, so in the winter, especially in the winter, robbers were just like hovering next to funerals like a fucking Starbucks table when it's busy.
All right, so needless to say, grieving families were not a huge fan of these new body snatching practices, but yeah. By the 1820s, it had become so prevalent in Edinburgh that there were literal marches in the streets and protests. Graveyards started to employ night watchmen and built watchtowers, many of which are still standing. And the bereaved started to buy huge stone slabs that could be like set over top of the grave, or these devices called mort safes, which are big ass iron cages that are buried deep into the ground around the grave. By the way, many of those also still stand, which is creepy as ever. Love and fuck if you don't know why they're there, because it's a prison built around a dead guy.
Yeah. By the way, fun fact, photos of mort safes are often used as proof of the existence of vampires.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Zombies too. Yeah.
Zombies, vampires, pretty regular.
Okay, so ultimately,
everybody have fun with that? I feel like, I don't know.
No, that's a very fun fact, especially this close to Halloween. Yeah. Now, ultimately, everything they were doing to impede the efforts of grave robbers had the effect of impeding the efforts of grave robbers. And that became a big problem for anatomists in the area, most notably Dr. Robert Knox. Now, we actually have to take a quick diversion here to introduce this enigmatic character to the story. Knox was a young surgeon who had already made quite a name for himself by 1828. A bout with smallpox as a child had left him blind in one eye and badly disfigured, but that didn't stop him from becoming one of the top surgeons in the world. At a time when most of that shit was still done by barbers and butchers. He had served as an army physician for the British during the Battle of Waterloo and in Southern Africa. And though his involvement in the story kind of overshadows everything else he did in a historical sense, had it not been for that, he would be on the very short list for the title of Father of Modern Anatomy. So Knox was one of Edinburgh's most prestigious purchaser of posthumous people, and like most of the folks procuring bodies for dissection, he wasn't super scrupulous when it came to chain of custody. Folks would just show up with a dirty shovel in one hand and a cadaver in the other and say, yeah, I just found this person who died in prison and or from a suicide. And Knox would fork over his 8 to 10 pounds, depending on the season, which, by the way, that's the equivalent of over $1,000 today, even on the low end.
Okay, just a quick reminder. People were hunting orphans like goddamn velociraptors in this city at this point.
Okay, maybe it's just me, but I would rob the fuck out of some graves for $1,000. That is the perfect crime if you're an atheist. It doesn't matter.
Right?
Good
and
money.
You're helping science. It's actually a good crime. So that's where things stand in 1828. There's a high demand for fresh human bodies from people who are accustomed to not asking a lot of questions, and it's getting harder and harder to dig them up. And given what a fucked up species Homo sapien is, that was a perfect recipe for murder.
All right, well, Noah just ruined phase 2 of my plan, so while I stare bitterly at him, we're going to take a break for a little something we like to call apropos of nothing.
Dr. Knox.
Yes, Jenkins, what is it?
I'm afraid there's some unpleasant rumors going about.
About me?
Yes, sir. They say you ain't too careful when it comes to getting your cadavers.
Absurd. I work with only the finest procurers of the human body. One moment. Hello.
Hey, you the Knox guy?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you give me for this bag of dead kids?
That depends on how many kids there are in the bag.
Like, total or pieces?
Total.
Total, it's like three. I'm gonna say 3.
Oh, there you go then, 18 pounds.
Fuck yeah, nice. Deal.
Good evening.
Sorry, sir?
Yes, Jenkins.
I think that might be the kind of thing people are talking about. You just bought a bag of dead children from a stranger.
What? He's not a stranger.
Well, he's not?
Hey, hey!
No refunds. We're not doing
No!
refunds.
What's your name?
My name?
Yes.
It's Steve.
See? Jenkins? That's Steve. All on the up and up, that.
Yes, sir.
And Jenkins,
Yes, sir.
maybe don't go out that entrance. Steve seems kind of lingery.
Thank you, sir.
No, I'm not. It's fine. You can come out here. I'm not lingery.
No,
That's a
no, you
weird
can't.
description
Don't
of it.
do it.
Yes, you can. Come right out.
He's got the bag.
Come out right now.
All right, when we last left off, the market solution was murdering people again. Again.
Yep.
It happens so often. You would think sometimes the market solution would not be
No, it's always that.
murdering people. Anyway, what happened next? Sorry.
Yeah, right. All right. So it's time to meet our murderer in chief, William Burke. Of course, these are the Burke and Hare murders, and we're going to meet Hare as well, but he's definitely the Robin to Burke's Batman, or I guess the Otis to his Lex Luthor. They're bad guys, so
Yeah, you're saying they were fucking. We get it. No, we get it.
Batman's a bad
that's
guy.
not what I was saying. Thank you. And just to make this bit a bit more formal, they're both named William, so you have to kind of go with last names here. So William Burke was born into a well-to-do family in Ireland in 1792. There were 6 of them. He was born into one of them. He married young, but then he had an argument with his father-in-law over who owned what land, and he got so pissed that he abandoned his family and moved to Scotland.
Jesus.
Yep, that's a pretty bad argument, apparently. Eventually, he remarried, settled down as a cobbler, and I love this bizarre detail the wiki bio offers up. Apparently, he was, quote, known locally as an industrious and good-humored man who often entertained his clients by singing and dancing on their doorstep while plying his trade, end quote.
Of cobbling?
Yeah, seems like dancing wouldn't be real conducive to cobbling. But yeah, it also points out that he was, quote, seldom seen without a Bible, end quote. And I think both of those factoids are offered up in the vein of, can you believe this guy was a vicious murderer? But I feel like a Bible thumper who dances while he fixes shoes is the first guy I would look to when folks started showing up dead, right?
It's also weird that a cobbler would team up for murders. I figure he'd be a soul killer. Soul.
Okay, but that's why he was a cobbler who saves your soul. Cecil.
I got one.
I got a cover.
Blueberry cobbler.
Nope.
That was a nice try. It was a nice
That was
try.
good.
Tom.
That
The
was
important thing is that you tried.
Choose.
All right, so we know a lot less about William Hare. We really don't know how old he was when he committed his crimes. And in terms of his origins, the best the wiki can do is to say that he was probably born in County Armagh, County Londonderry, or in Newry. And those are all in Ireland, though, so I'm mispronouncing all of them, I'm sure. Hare was apparently way more the murdery type. So the wiki quotes one source that describes Hare as, quote, illiterate and uncouth, a lean, quarrelsome, violent, and amoral character with the scars from old wounds about his head and brow, end quote. And the same source also throws a bit of shade on Hare's wife, describing her as a, quote, hard-featured and debauched virago, end quote. Virago, that's a word I'm not familiar with. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either. It means an ill-tempered, domineering woman or a heroic female warrior. Though I'm sure to the people of the day, those meanings weren't worth parsing out. So in 1827, Hare owned this lodging house where Burke and his second wife were living. And among his other lodgers was a guy named Donald, who had the temerity to die while his rent was still in arrears. Specifically, he owed Hare £4, which at the time of his demise, as we've already seen, was a fairly large sum of money, about $500 or so. So he bitches about his financial loss to his buddy Burke, who tells him that anatomists up in Edinburgh were paying at least double that amount for fresh corpses. So they staged a fake funeral. They secreted the body out of the coffin before they buried it, and they replaced it with tree bark a la Indy getting the idol. And then they headed to the big city.
Oh man, I hope they walked with him like with the dead guy, like he was a giant puppet the whole way. That would be amazing. Just
Weekend
amazing.
and birdies them all the way into
amazing.
town. Yeah. Now, okay, my favorite aspect of this entire story probably is the fact that these guys didn't know anyone in particular that wanted dead people.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
they just
amazing.
had, like, the general sense that the science folks up there bought cadavers. So apparently they
so
spent a
good.
whole evening going around town with like a "Psst, hey, you want to buy a corpse" kind of approach.
We got two.
Yes.
We got two.
But eventually a medical student pointed him towards Knox's place. So he buys the body for £7, 10 shillings. Hare gets his back rent plus 5 shillings, and Burke gets the remainder for schlepping Donald's reeking corpse up and down Edinburgh's many lovely hills. But as they're leaving, one of Knox's assistants says, "Hey, man, we hope we'll see you again when you have another to dispose of." Now, no doubt he assumed they were grave robbers, but that is not how Burke and Hare took it at all.
All right.
It definitely feels like they're going to start murdering adults, cutting them in half, and selling them as 2 orphan kids, right? Like that's like a fucking Monty Python dead parent sketch. They just taped extra faces on one. That's clearly going to happen.
Wait, half lengthwise or crosswise, Keith?
Yeah, I was assuming height-wise, yeah.
I was thinking x-axis, and then you put a. I don't know why, because it's dumb now that I think about it. But I was thinking taping a head above the waist.
If you do an x-axis, then you can just kind of like show it to them from the side. Like, that's 2 guys. So
Yeah.
that makes
I
sense.
got 2
There you
very
go.
thin twins.
So-
See, my vision was smart.
Okay, so from this point, the chronology gets a little tricky. Burke would later offer up 2 contradictory confessions, neither of which agreed with Hare's. So we don't actually know who their first victim was. It was definitely one of Hare's lodgers, but it could have been a miller named Joseph, a salt seller named Abigail Simpson, or an unnamed English matchstick salesman.
It could have been any of them.
Yep.
This is a normal 3-death week at my Airbnb. That's how. No, they obviously killed all 3. That's so very clear.
No, they killed all 3. We just don't know which they killed first. Yes.
Okay. Fair.
But what they all tend to agree on is that the first victim actually got super, super sick and was probably going to die anyway. Hare started worrying that a potentially infectious lodger might be bad for business, so they got the victim good and shit-faced. Then Hare held a pillow over their face while Burke, by far the larger of the 2 men, laid down on the victim's chest. This was obviously to keep him from thrashing about too much, but also as a secondary means of suffocation in case anything slipped past the pillow.
Man, the My Pillow backstory makes a lot more sense now.
Right. So this method of suffocation, though usually without the pillow, would become the pair's MO over the next year or so. Well, 15 more people fell victim to their murder spree.
So that's what you said. It was like £1,000 at the time.
Mhm, yeah.
That's like an kind of old Nissan Sentra split between the 2 of them by killing 15 people. It's a shitty deal.
Right. Yeah.
You have the back of a Nissan Sentra.
Yeah, right.
Where would which way would you cut it? Which way would you cut it though, Heath? Would you cut it X or Y?
I'd go Y-axis.
Okay. All right.
Think about
All right.
it.
That's
So
fair.
Tape headlights to it.
The consensus of the panel is that they should have killed more people, apparently. Okay. So
That's always my vote. No matter what essay we're doing.
I mean, my consensus is to
what
turn a real
topic?
profit. If you got to break a few eggs, no way you got to break a few
yeah,
eggs.
right. Well, exactly. So now I should point out that not all of the 16 ultimate victims were people that actually stayed at the lodging house. At a certain point, they would just start meeting people on the street, being super friendly, getting them real drunk, and then saying, "Hey, no worries. We got a bed right back here where you can sleep that off." At one point, Hare even got a victim delivered by the local police. A constable found a woman too drunk to stand up, and he's helping her back to her lodgings, and Hare steps in and says, "Oh, she can sleep it off at my place. I got a place."
Hello, Mr. Ghoulish Boarder. You want to take this blackout drunk girl back to your place? Well, it's getting donut 30. What's the worst that can
That's
happen?
right. Yes.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Send Dog the Bounty Hunter after me?
Oh,
Hey, if you're listening in the backlogs, that's a reference to the
Okay.
time we let a Mickey Rourke character find a girl's murderer because our cops suck and everything is hell now.
Yep.
I know you
They
forgot.
still don't know about the back of stuff.
Right. Exactly. Now, so after a dozen or so of these murders, though, the partnership started to get a bit rocky. Burke and his wife had left to visit her dad in June, and when they came back, Hare had new clothes and fewer debts. So Burke accused him of killing somebody without him. right?
What?
Now, Hare denied the accusation, but Burke just checked with Knox, and sure enough, turned out that Hare had sold him some dead lady like the week before
Really
last.
bad lie.
Right? So this led to an argument between the two, which led to a fist fight, which led to Burke moving out of the lodging house. But it somehow didn't stop them from continuing to murder people together.
Wait, they kept teaming up to kill people?
Yeah.
Just like stopping in the middle of murders to have a whisper fight. Like, listen,
Really wish
can I talk to
you
you over here?
wouldn't criticize
We
my
agreed
pillow
that we would
technique.
both go to all of them. We would take a time out during
We
the week
can
when I was down
do
south.
this after they stop brushing. No, in fact, one of their later victims was an in-law of Burke's, and apparently Hare's Virago wife strongly suggested that they kill Burke's wife too, since you can't trust Scottish women.
I just like that they could keep it professional. You hate to see drama tear a good team apart.
Now, of course, eventually though, they started to get sloppy.
Yeah, they're just stopping people in the street. Pardon me, miss, can you smell this pillow? It smells weird to me. It just smells weird.
Does this smell like
Just bury your face in it.
So their penultimate victim was actually a well-known beggar who walked with a distinctive limp because of a deformity in his feet. He was known locally as Daft Jamie. Since 1820s Scots weren't super woke about mental disabilities, but he was the kind of person that basically everybody in town knew. So when Knox's assistant saw the body, they were like, hey, isn't that Daft Jamie? But their final victim was even worse. Basically, they let the whole lodging house see them partying up with her before they killed her, and then they acted all suspicious as hell when the lodgers wanted to, go to their rooms. Then they just left the dead body sitting in a pile of straw at the foot of their bed in some half-ass attempt to cover her up until they got around to selling her. So, of course, the suspicious boarders discovered the body and went to the cops. Now, Burke and Hare realized that they'd been discovered in time to dispose of the body, but they just sort of shoved her bloody clothes and shit under the bed. So when the cops showed up, they found plenty of evidence of the murder. And since there was a pretty short list of guys that would buy a still warm cadaver, even in Edinburgh, it didn't take them long to find the body. And when they did, Knox had zero incentive not to say, yeah, I bought this one from Burke and Hare.
Well, yeah, and Knox had just bought her, so she probably still had her tags on her and everything. So.
Right, yeah, exactly.
What
Lemon
is
laws.
your return policy?
All right, so naturally, Burke, Hare, and Hare's wife are all arrested at this point, and they give some conflicting testimony. Medical examiners are brought in to examine the victim, and though they say she probably died from suffocation, due to the method that they used, it couldn't be medically proven at that point in history. And apparently the cops didn't think they had enough evidence to ensure a conviction, so they ultimately decided to offer Hare immunity if he would turn King's evidence and rat out Burke. And apparently the law, by the way, wouldn't allow him to testify against his wife, so that amounted to immunity for her, too. But Burke and his wife were both charged with multiple counts of murder.
I like medically proven. Okay, well, looks like she definitely died. That's for sure. Can't tell how, though. Mystery of science. Well, also, we do have a nice chuck roast on sale for $8.99 a pound, where we can give you a quick shave for 2 bits. Medicine.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we found her bloody clothes in the apartment, but you can't make a lady tattle on her husband, so that's as good as we're going to get policing.
Yeah. Hasn't gotten a hell of a lot.
Why would you not be allowed to testify
So
against
I think
anybody?
honestly it's because so many people would testify against their wife just because they hated her, So, yeah, right.
That was good.
So another person who escaped any legal ramifications whatsoever from this event was Dr. Robert Knox, who told police that he thought Burke and Hare just, watched all the lodging houses of the poor people and hovered over terminally ill people like vultures. And while this is at least plausible, it's all but impossible to believe Knox didn't know what was going on. Okay, so in addition to his assistants repeatedly pointing out how warm the bodies Burke and Hare delivered seemed to be, there was also a fact inserted into the wiki that is all but an admission of guilt if it's true. When they saw Daft Jamie's corpse, a bunch of the students recognized him. Knox lied and assured them that it couldn't be anybody they knew. But when stories started circulating soon after that Daft Jamie was missing, Knox moved that body to the front of the dissection line and then cut off his distinctive misshapen feet before the dissection.
All right, class. Today we're going to learn about face smushing Dr. Stuff.
All right, first up, remember, every dissection begins with cutting off the corpse's tattletale feet, everybody. So let's all go in first.
In the incinerator, yeah. Now, of course, just because the cops forgave Knox his part in the crime didn't mean that the public had to. The newspapers had a field day with the story and all but universally blamed Knox, many of them painting him as the criminal mastermind behind the whole ordeal, which is actually probably pretty fucking accurate. But Knox avoided even having to testify at the trial. Now, the trial itself took place on Christmas Eve of 1928, and yes, it all took place in one day. I crossed the midnight line. The proceedings didn't wrap up until 3 a.m., but they did it all in one sitting. Ultimately, Burke's wife was found not proven, which is their way of saying, yeah, we don't think you're innocent, but we can't convict you. Burke, on the other hand, was found guilty and sentenced to be executed, after which, of course, his body was turned over to local anatomists for dissection.
That's excellent.
And if you had to summarize what you learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Apparently, our trip to Edinburgh could have been worse. We said it could.
Citation needed.
Agree to disagree.
Very true.
Are you ready for the quiz?
I think I am, yeah.
All right, Noah, which of the following is the best name for Burke and Hare's murder gang? A, Dismembers Only. B, La Corpsa Nostra. Or C, The Crypt. The Crypt.
That was so good.
Very
so
clearly,
good.
it's got to be a C.
So good.
It's got to be a C.
That is
So we
correct.
can
Well done.
revisit that one.
All right. What's the theme song of this story, Noah? A, Take My Breath Away. No, that's a gimme. That's a gimme. B, Abracadaver. C,
Nice.
Cut Footloose. D, Asphyxiate Days a Week. Or E,
Good.
Kills to Pay the Bills.
All right. Ooh, this is a tough one. I'm going to have to go with B, Abracadaver.
Oh, I am not sure.
Okay,
Let's
that's
just go
good.
on.
That's good,
Yeah.
too.
I kissed a girl and
All right, Noah, what great play depicts the events of the Burke and Hare murders? A, Smother Courage. Smother Courage.
yeah.
Never heard of it.
B,
I don't know that one.
Pillow Man. Come on,
Still
it won
no.
the Tony.
Still-
Very important. Edward Hogg. Fine. Don't worry. You're all gonna.
You're gonna bring it home with C. You're gonna bring it home with
this
C.
one. You're gonna love it. C.
You're gonna bring it home with C.
A feet scar named this guy here.
Jesus. Oh, wow.
That so doesn't work.
Noah, what are you gonna pick?
This is
Stretching like a contortionist.
Oh, it's so good. Oh.
I'm going to go with D, anything else.
All right, no, this one's going to be tough.
Was that right?
No, it was
Correct. Anything.
Oh,
Pete's
God, I'm crying. I'm crying. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so funny.
All right, no, this one's going to be a tough one. Convicting Knox for wrongdoing would be next to impossible. After all, he only created the economic incentive structure that all but guaranteed this would happen, then turned an intentionally blind eye to the deaths all around him and helped cover it up when bodies started piling up.
Oh, no.
What do we call that now? A, the Purdue Pharma story.
Oh, you could have, this list could be so much longer. But I'm going to go, I appreciate you keeping it easy with me. I'll go A, the Purdue Pharma story.
Damn.
All right. Well,
B, the NFL.
Yeah.
all right.
See, capitalism.
Yeah, that's right.
Capitalism.
All right, Noah. Looks like nobody stumped you, so you are this week's winner.
Awesome. I would like a Cecil essay next week.
Yes.
All right. Well, for Tom, Noah, Cecil, and Heath, I'm Eli Bosnick. Thanking you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Cecil will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can check out our various podcasts, which, statistically speaking, you already listened to. But hey, if you don't, you should start. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod, or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
All right, here you go, Dr. Knox. Got another fresh one for you.
Yes, Steve. there's just one problem.
There's a problem? What's that?
That is my assistant, Jenkins. We were just talking.
No, that's not. No, it's not.
Yes, that's me.
Ah, shit. Didn't hit him hard enough. All right, what do you say? 5 pounds? 3 pounds.
Yeah, 3
3 pounds, nice.
He wasn't a great assistant.
He's the worst.
Yeah.